Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Fine. Okay. So today we are going to do the third part of separation of substances. Separation of substances is such a big chapter. So we are doing the third part, and this is the last part. Okay. So, all right. We move on to the next slide.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. Okay. Do you all know what are solutions? What do you mean by a solution? Does
Ma'am,
anyone know what is the meaning of a solution?
Solution means that when we mix two substances and suppose salt and water, it becomes salty water. So that's called a solution.
Okay, very good, Sanika. All right. So, does everything only mix, for example, does everything only mix with water, or
No.
are there any other
no,
liquids that can mix with
There
other
are many.
substances?
So you can make chocolate shake, milk and chocolate powder, chocolate shake.
Okay, very good. All right. So, solution can be of any kind. Like the solute can be there, as a solvent can be there, and when a solute and a solvent mixes together, it forms a solution. Okay. So the solvent can be any other thing than water. All right. But water is called a universal solvent. Okay. It's called a universal solvent because it can dissolve a huge number of solutes. It can dissolve many kinds of substances. Okay. Which other liquids cannot do. All right. Therefore, water is called a universal solvent. Now, in a solution, there are two things. To form a solution, two things are required. One is a solute and one is a solvent. So a solute is usually a solid or a liquid. Okay. A solute is always present in lesser amount. And a solute is a substance that is dissolved in another substance to form the solution. And what about a solvent? A solvent is a substance that is dissolving the solute to form the solution. So let's take the example of sugar solution. In sugar solution, sugar is a solute, water is a solvent, sugar plus water mixes together to form the sugar solution. Okay? So this is a solution. When a solute mixes with a solvent, it forms a solution. And when we talk about making a solution, it should be at a particular temperature. Okay. Like for example, water will mix a particular substance, maybe salt or sugar, at a particular temperature. When you increase the temperatures, something else may happen. Okay. So um, the solubility of a substance can be measured only at a particular temperature. All right, we move on to the next slide. Okay, what is solubility? Now, suppose you are taking 100 ml of water. Okay. Now, how much amount of salt or sugar or any kind of solute you are adding to it at that temperature, that is called the solubility of that solute. For example, now if we take 100 ml of water and you add, say, we are in 100 ml of water, we are adding about 10 grams of sugar. Okay, we are adding 10 grams of sugar, and no more, no more sugar is being able to dissolve after that. Only 10 grams of sugar gets dissolved at a particular temperature, at the room temperature. Okay, so that is called the solubility of sugar, okay, in water. Now if you take water, 100 ml of water, and you try to dissolve salt, Now salt maybe only 7 grams of salt may dissolve, okay, in 100 ml of water. So that will differ with respect to the solute. Okay, when the solute will be different, the solubility will be different. If the solvent will be if we, instead of water, if we take any other solvent, if we take let's say we are taking milk, or we are taking alcohol, or we are taking some other kind of liquid, okay, so
No,
then the solubility will be different in all the cases. All right, so solubility actually depends on some factors. One is, it depends on the temperature, it depends on the pressure, it depends on pH of a solution. Now what is pH? Like we say that some liquids are acidic in nature, some are basic in nature. What is the, like have you heard about some kinds of acids, like maybe citric acid, which is found in your lemons and oranges and all? Okay, so citric acid means it's an acid. Okay, it is um, we can say that pH is something which is like acid, and you all have heard about acid attacks, right? You all know what are acid attacks?
yes, ma'am.
Okay, what happens if an acid falls on the floor, or what happens if acid falls on the paper? Can you all tell me what will happen?
Ma'am, it will burn.
It will burn.
Ma'am, it will burn.
Yeah, yeah. So the paper will burn. Okay, so acids have that kind of nature, little corrosive in nature. So like that is a pH. Okay, now pH you all won't understand now. So pH, you all just remember that depending on the acidity, depending on the basic nature, there are different kinds of solutions. All right, so the solubility depends on temperature, it depends on pressure, it depends on pH, it also depends on the nature of the solute and the solvent. Okay, the nature of the solute and the solvent, these are the factors on which solubility depends. And what is solubility? Again, I'm repeating, if you take 100 ml of any solute, of any solvent, and you add solute to the solvent, how many grams of solute is being dissolved in the solvent at a particular temperature? That is the solubility of that substance in that solvent. Okay, is that clear to everyone? What is solubility? Did everyone understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so then we can move on to the next slide.
Ma'am,
All
it's
right.
a request that one of few students of my class is waiting outside, so please let her in.
Swapna ma'am?
Yeah, Nicola, ma'am, you can continue.
Okay. All right. So now there are different kinds of solutions. Okay. One is called a dilute solution. Now, what is that? Now, let's take the example of a public transport bus. All right. Now, suppose there are 40 seats in the bus. All right. And only 30 seats are occupied. That means 10 seats are left vacant till now. Okay, so that can be compared to a dilute solution. Okay, now the bus is having 40 seats, but only 30 seats are occupied, 10 seats are still vacant, so there is still space for people to enter into the bus and have a seat. Okay, so that can be compared to a dilute solution. For example, like we are taking water, okay, and we are adding 2 spoons of sugar to it. We are taking about 200 ml of water. We are adding 2 teaspoons of sugar to it. There is still place to add more sugar. Like we can still add more sugar, and it will mix with the water. Okay, so that kind of solution is called a dilute solution. Now let us take a comparison. Now we are taking 2 containers. Okay, in both we are taking 200 ml of water. In one container we are adding 2 spoons of sugar, and in the other container we are adding 4 spoons of sugar. So when you compare both, tell me which is a dilute solution, the first one or the second one?
Second one.
Ma'am, the one which has two spoons of sugar is the dilute one.
Okay, the one which has 2 spoons of sugar, that's the dilute one. Yes. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
The one which is having.
Ma'am, because you
Yes.
can't put any more sugar in it. That's its limit.
Yeah, no, but I asked you all that there are 2 containers. Okay, one is both are having 200 ml of water. In the first container, we are putting 2 spoons of sugar, and in the second container, we are putting 4 spoons of sugar. So I am asking you all, which is more dilute, which is a dilute solution when you compare the 2?
Ma'am, the one with the 2 spoons is the dilute one.
Yeah, one with the 2 spoons is the dilute solution. Okay, because there is still more space. Like I told you, in the bus, there is still more space for people to enter into the bus and sit. In the same way, there is still more sugar that can dissolve in the solvent, in the water. So that solution, which can still dissolve more sugar or more salt or any kind of solute, that kind of a solution is called a dilute solution. Is that clear to everybody? What is a dilute solution? Is everyone clear with it?
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am.
And a dilute solution is where you can add more sugar or salt in more
Yes.
solutes in it, and
Yes.
unsaturated solute. Ma'am, a saturated solution is where you can't add anything. That's its limit.
Yeah. Okay. So the dilute solution you all understood, and dilute solution is called an unsaturated solution because it can still add more of the solute. Okay. So therefore it is called a dilute solution or unsaturated solution. Okay, we move on to the next slide. Okay, now what is a concentrated solution? A concentrated solution is a solution in which the amount of solute is more. Like I gave you the example of 2 containers just now. Okay, in one there is 2 spoons of sugar is added, and in the other 4 spoons of sugar is added. So which is more concentrated? Means a concentrated solution is having more solute. It can be any kind of solute, any sugar or
Ma'am,
salt.
the one with the 4 spoons is the concentrated one.
Yes, the one with the 4 spoons of sugar is the concentrated one. Okay, because it is having more solute as compared to the first case. In the first case, there was only 2 spoons of sugar. In the second case, there are 4 spoons of sugar. So that is having more solute as compared to the first case. Okay, so that is a more concentrated solution. Now let us take the example of the bus again. Now, as I told you, there are 40 seats in the bus. All right. Now, if all the 40 seats are occupied, then that is like a concentrated solution. Okay. A dilute solution was when only 30 seats were occupied, 10 seats were still left. So that was a dilute solution. There is still more space for people to enter in, for people to have a seat. Okay, but a concentrated solution is when it's packed, it's concentrated, like 40 seats are occupied. All right, did you all understand
Yes,
what is
ma'am.
concentrated solution? Everyone, did you all understand what is
A
concentrated solution?
concentrated
Yes,
solution
ma'am.
is when there is no place for any more particles to go in.
Yeah. No, when there's no, like a concentrated solution is having more solute, which, Ariha, you are saying that that is a saturated solution, okay, which is having no more space for any more particles to go in. A concentrated solution is having more amount of solute. The amount of solute is more, okay, so that is called a concentrated solution. All right, so when we compare a dilute solution and a concentrated solution, who will tell me what is the difference between these two? So I'll ask one by one, okay, like Shraddha, can you tell me what is the difference between a dilute solution and a concentrated solution?
Sure, ma'am.
Yes,
So, ma'am,
can
a
you tell me?
concentrated is a solution where the particles cannot be dissolved anymore, and the
Okay, so that is a where particles cannot be dissolved anymore. And what is a dilute one? Aarti, can you say?
Yes, ma'am. Dilute.
Yes.
Ma'am,
What is a dilute?
I don't know because
How are the both different?
ma'am, I don't know because I joined late. That's why I can't hear what you tell.
All right. Anyone else can tell me what is the difference between a dilute solution and a concentrated solution?
Ma'am,
Yes.
ma'am, may I try?
Yeah. They are. What
Ma'am,
did you say?
concentrated solution has more particles and dilute solution are which it is mixed.
Okay. All right. So let me repeat this again. Okay. Now, what is a
Ma'am, may I
dilute
tell?
and yes. Yes,
Yes,
Aarti?
ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, the difference between dilute and concentrated solution is uh, a worker will change the concentration of a solution by changing the amount of solvent. It is dilution is the addition of solvent which decrease the concentration of the solute in the solution. That's why the concentration is the removal of solvent which increases the concentration of the solute in the solution.
Sorry, I couldn't get you. What did you say? What
Ma'am,
is concentrated solution? Let her repeat. Yes. What did you say?
Oh, ma'am, I tell that the difference between dilute and the concentration solution is that the dilute solution is different from concentration because a worker will change the concentration of a solution by changing the amount of solvent. That's why the dilute solution means has a small amount of solute and a large amount of solvent, and a concentration solution has a large amount of solvent means a small amount of solvent. That's why there is a difference between dilute and concentration solution.
ma'am, may I?
Okay.
Ma'am, example strong coffee in concentration and a dilute solution example weak coffee.
Okay. Yeah.
Ma'am, may I?
Janvi, yes. Yeah.
Ma'am, in concentrated solution, ma'am, you can, ma'am, there is more solute. there's excess solute, but you can still resolve more. And in dilute, there is less solute and also you can dissolve more. But in a concentrated solution, there is excess of solute, whereas in a dilute solution, there is not excess of solute, it's normal.
Okay. All right. Okay, so let me repeat this once more, okay, for all of you. See, now dilute, we are now comparing dilute and concentrated solution. All right. So now suppose, forget about so many complex terms and all. We are taking two containers. All right. In both the containers, we are taking 200 ml of water. Okay. In the first container, we are adding 4 teaspoons of salt. In the second container, we are adding 2 teaspoons of salt. In the first container, how many teaspoons of salt we added? In the first container, how many teaspoons of salt did we add?
2.
4. In the second container, we added 2 teaspoons. Okay. So first container, 4 teaspoons. Second container, 2 teaspoons. Now tell me, where did we add more salt?
In the first one.
Ma'am, first container. Ma'am, in the first container.
In the first container, we added more salt, right? And in the second container, we added less salt. So the first solution is a concentrated solution. And the second solution is a dilute solution. Is that clear?
Ma'am, can I try once more?
Yes.
Ma'am, in a concentrated solution, it has a relatively large amount than the dilute solution.
Yes. The solute. Okay. Here we are talking about the solute. The solute is more in case of concentrated solution and it is less in case of dilute solution. So the difference is there in the solute. Okay. When we compare two same amount of liquids, like we took 200 ml of liquid in both the containers. Okay. So there is no difference in the liquid, but there is difference in the amount of solute that we added. In the first container, we added 4 spoons of salt, and in the second container, we added 2 spoons of salt. So the first one is a concentrated solution, and the second one is a dilute solution. When you taste the concentrated salt solution, it will be more salty, right? When you taste the dilute solution or the solution having 2 spoons of salt will be less salty. Okay. So the first one is a concentrated solution. The second one is a dilute solution. Is the dilute solution and concentrated solution clear to everyone? Now,
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Now we can move on to the next slide. Okay. Now, we learned about dilute solution and concentrated solution. Now we learn about a saturated solution. A saturated solution is a solution in which more amount of solute cannot be added. Means if you add also, it will not dissolve. Okay. So like we already took two containers in the last example. Okay. Now we are taking a third container. We're taking a third container with the same amount of solvent. We're taking it with 200 ml of solvent. Now we are adding, instead of, we are adding now maybe 6 spoons of sugar, 6 spoons of salt. Okay. Now after adding 6 spoons of salt, more salt is not getting dissolved in the water. So that is the saturation point. And now there might be a time when like very delicious food is made at your home. Okay, maybe biryani or maybe some other very delicious food is made at home, and you eat. Okay, you eat a lot. Now there'll be a time when you cannot eat anymore. Okay, when you're completely
Ma'am,
full
when
and you say, Mama,
ma'am,
no,
when our
I
stomach
can't
is
eat
full,
anymore. Yes, when your stomach is completely full and you cannot eat any more food, even though you like it, you cannot eat more. Okay, so that is your saturation point. In the same way, there is a saturation point for any kind of solvent also. Okay, so the 200 ml of water can only add 6 spoons of salt. This is an example. Okay, it is, it's just an estimate. So it can only add 6 spoons of salt. So it cannot add more salt, means it cannot dissolve more amount of salt. So then that is a saturated solution. Okay, that kind of a solution is a saturated solution when it cannot add more amount of solute into it, when it cannot dissolve more amount of solute. So that's called a saturated solution. Let us take the example of the bus, okay, which we already took the example before. Like I already told you, like the bus is having 40 seats, all right? And if 30 seats are occupied, that's a dilute solution. If 40 seats are occupied, that's a concentrated solution. But in a public bus, in a public transport bus, then there is also some space in between, like 2 rows of seats. Have you all seen it?
yes, ma'am.
Between two
Yes,
rows of
ma'am.
seats, there's still some space. So what the
Yes, ma'am.
conductor does, the conductor still he lets people go in, and what those people do, those people all stand in a row. They all stand between the 2 rows of seats. They all stand. Okay. Now the bus becomes entirely full. People standing all over in between the rows. So now there is no more place for the conductor to even add more people. Okay, because the bus is already full. People are standing everywhere, near the driver, everywhere. Like people are all sitting everywhere. Even though there is no seat, they are standing and going in the public bus. So that can be compared to a saturated solution where there is no more place for people to enter now. Okay, did you all follow what is a saturated solution?
Yes,
Ma'am, may
ma'am.
I told this definition?
Yes, say.
Ma'am, in a solution which, in which we cannot add more substances is called saturated solution.
Okay, yeah. A saturated solution is a solution in which more solute cannot be added to it. Okay, so that's a saturated solution. That is the limit for the solvent to add. So they cannot add, the solvent cannot add more amount of solute. All right, so that's a saturated solution.
Ma'am,
Yes.
ma'am, there is unsaturated solution also is there.
Unsaturated solution is the same as a dilute solution. When unsaturated solution is a solution in which more amount of solute can be added, it is just the reverse of saturated solution. Okay, a saturated solution is when more amount of solute cannot be added, that's a saturated solution. And unsaturated solution is a solution in which more amount of solute can be added to it, so that is an unsaturated solution. Okay. Okay, now we move on to the next slide. Okay, now what is a super saturated solution? Now, a super saturated solution is a solution that is more than saturated. How? When I already told you all that saturated solution means a solution that cannot add more solute into it. I mean, more solute cannot be added to the solvent. Okay, so that is the saturated solution. Now, what is this a supersaturated solution? A supersaturated solution is a solution in which we still add more amount of solute. But how do we add it? By changing some of the factors. By changing the temperature, you can make a supersaturated solution. Like when you heat water, okay? Suppose we already took the example of a saturated solution in which 200 ml of water is dissolving 6 spoons of salt. Okay. Now if you heat the water, one more spoon of salt can be added to it. So that kind of a solution is called a super saturated solution, because you are by heating the water, okay, you are changing the condition of the water, you are changing the temperature of the water. When you're changing the temperature of the water, more amount of solute can be added to the hot water. Okay, now that becomes a super saturated solution in which you can still add more solute, okay, by changing any of the factors. Maybe changing temperature, maybe changing pressure, by changing any other kind of factors related to it, you can improve the solubility of the water. You can change the solubility, you can change it into a super saturated solution. Even after saturation, you can add more solute. That is a super saturated solution. Okay. Now let us take the example of the bus again. All right. Now we said that it is completely full, no space anywhere. People are all standing in the row and all. Okay. Now the conductor still wants to enter more people. Okay. He still wants more people to enter into the bus. So what happens? Where there are kids, the kids go and sit on the parents' lap. Okay. Where there are small children, they go and sit on the parents' lap. So one space is left then. Suppose there were two seats, okay? One, a small child was sitting, and in one the mother was sitting. So then the small child goes and sits on the mother's lap. Then one seat is still left. One more person can come and sit there. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. In that way, by changing some conditions, so in the bus also there's a change in the condition. The mother made the child sit on the lap, so that is a change in the condition. Okay, so then in that way, like more space can be made, more people can enter and they can adjust themselves in the bus. Okay, so that is called a super saturated solution. Did you all understand what is a supersaturated solution? Supersaturated
Yes, ma'am.
solution, you have to change some conditions in order to increase the solubility of any kind of solute in that liquid. Because saturated solution cannot add more solute. But when you change some conditions, when you change temperature, when you increase the temperature, then more amount of solute can be added. That makes it a super saturated solution. Is that clear to everyone?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, but
Okay.
Ma'am, I want.
Yes.
मैम फ्रॉम डिफरेंट सेचुरेटेड से जो सुपर सेचुरेटेड है वो ज्यादा डिजॉल्व होता है.
हाँ, वो ज्यादा डिसॉल्व करता है क्योंकि हम उसमें कंडीशंस को बदलते हैं, हम वहां टेम्परेचर को बदलते हैं. वैसे रूम टेम्परेचर में हो रहा है, लाइक a saturated solution is at room temperature. But when you increase the temperature, then more amount of solute can be added to the solution, solution. Yeah. So that
Ma'am,
makes it a super saturated solution. Yes, Daksh?
and ma'am, after heating the saturated solution, and ma'am, when it comes to room temperature, the extra dissolved salt comes down at the bottom, na, of the
Yes.
container.
Yes. Because that is not the capacity for it to dissolve that. But we increase the temperature and then so it dissolved more amount of solute. But when it cools down again, then the extra salt will not be dissolved. It will settle at the bottom. Okay?
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, instead of heating, if we cool the water, so the salt or sugar will dissolve in it.
No, if we cool it, it will be just the reverse. If you're increasing temperature, more amount of solute can be dissolved. But if you cool it, what Parv said, the same thing is going to happen. If you cool it, the excess amount of solute that we added will settle at the bottom. Okay?
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah. Because that is not the capacity for it to dissolve that much. Okay? But when you increase the temperature, then it dissolves it. When you bring down the temperature, cool it, then the excess amount of solute which had been dissolved, that settles at the bottom. Clear? Okay. So we can move on to the next slide. Now you can see the picture. Okay? In the first case, like water is taken everywhere. In all the three containers, water is taken. Okay? In the first container, very less amount of copper sulfate is added. So you can see the color of the color. It is very faint blue in color. Copper sulfate is light blue in color. Okay, like you can see the picture in the test tube. So when you add very less amount of copper sulfate, the solute is very less. So that is a dilute solution, dilute copper sulfate solution. When you add little more amount, then it becomes a concentrated copper sulfate solution. You can see the difference in the color. This is more darker. Concentrated copper sulfate solution is more darker than dilute copper sulfate solution. And when it becomes saturated, it becomes even more darker. So here we are observing a change in color. But if you take salt solution or sugar solution, you can also understand by tasting it. Okay? The dilute one will be less sweet. The concentrated one will be sweeter. And the saturated one will be very, very sweet. Okay? So like that, there's a difference between dilute, concentrated, and saturated. So saturated solution is having it is having the most amount of solute that can be dissolved in it. More amount of solute cannot be dissolved in the saturated solution. Okay? Did you all get these 4 terms? Dilute,
Ma'am,
concentrated, yes?
ma'am, of copper sulfate solution, ma'am, of super saturated, what color will be?
Then it will be more darker. As compared to the saturated one, it will be more darker. Okay?
Okay, ma'am.
So, yeah, any doubts? Till this, like you all understood these 4 terms: dilute, concentrated, saturated, and
Yes,
super
ma'am.
saturated?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now we move on to the next slide. Okay. So all of you put your videos on. Experiment time.
Ma'am,
Yes.
ma'am, can I get more hot water? It just cooled down.
See, we'll give you all time for you all to make the water hot. Okay. We'll
Okay,
give you all
ma'am.
time. Yeah.
Ma'am, my water is hot.
Fine. If it is hot, it's no problem. Like there's no issue with that. If it is not hot, we'll give you some time for you all to go and heat it. All of you put your videos
Ma'am.
on. Okay. We are going to do an experiment to test like the
Ma'am,
solubility.
I want to tell that we can take a transparent glass if we don't have the
Yes,
container.
you'll need a transparent container. Okay.
Then we can
And
use
you'll
glass.
need some salt.
Ma'am, I have a glass.
Yes.
It will be okay for it.
Which one? Who's
Ma'am,
speaking?
I can just show you. On this glass, I have normal. Uh, just, ma'am, can you see the glass?
Yeah. Yeah, that will be okay.
Okay, thank you.
Ma'am, what do we have to do?
You'll have to add little amount of water in it. Okay. Like I have taken water.
Ma'am, normal water.
Yes, normal water. Not hot water, normal water.
Ma'am, what we have to
Ma'am,
do?
can
Can
you
you
repeat?
explain it again?
See, you all need a glass container, salt, water, and something to stir the solution. Okay. So what you all will do, you all will add salt into the water.
Ma'am, we have to take hot water or cold water.
Normal water. For this
Okay, ma'am.
experiment, you all need.
Ma'am, in the glass container, we have to put normal water.
Ma'am, how
Yes,
many
in the
spoons we have to add the salt in the water?
what?
Ma'am,
What
how
did you
many
say?
spoons? Ma'am, how many spoons of salt we have to add in the cold water?
See, you all add little by little, and you all just have to stir it. Okay, you all don't have to keep on adding. You all add it and you all stir it.
Ma'am,
How many spoons? I have to
ma'am,
Here
this
we
much
are not
water.
testing the solubility. Here we are testing like how it becomes a solution. Swapna ma'am, can we take a look at the experiment again once more?
ma'am, ma'am, we have to put whole water or some.
Yeah. So
Ma'am, we
here,
have to put whole water.
yeah, normal
Ma'am,
water. Okay.
ma'am,
All right. Yes, ma'am. It's okay. So
Ma'am, so
what
we
you
have
have
to
to do is you have to dissolve. See, again, I'm repeating. Once I'll be repeating. You'll have to take a transparent glass container. Okay, you'll have to take salt and water and a spoon to stir it. All right. Now what y'all will do, y'all will add a little bit of salt to it and stir it and tell me if the salt dissolves in the water.
ma'am, the salt dissolved.
The salt
Ma'am, I
dissolves in
thought
the
this.
water. So tell
Can
me,
you see?
Yes, ma'am, the salt
which
is
is
not
the
dissolved.
solute? Which is the solute in this case?
Ma'am,
ma'am, the
what?
salt.
Which is the solute? Yes.
Ma'am, the
The
salt.
salt
Ma'am,
is
the
the
salt.
solute.
Ma'am, the salt
Solvent.
is the solute.
Ma'am, solvent is the
Solvent
water.
is the solvent and the solution
Solvent
is the
is the
salt
water.
solution.
Solute is the salt. Ma'am, the
Yeah.
solvent is the water and the solution is the mixture of water and salt.
Ma'am, the solute.
So
Ma'am,
here
the
is
solute is the salt. And the solute is the salt. The solvent is the water and the solution is the salt solution.
yeah. So here we are just you all have to know like which is a solute, which is a solvent, and the solution. Okay, and it completely dissolves, so it becomes a solution. All right. Now we move on to the next experiment.
Ma'am, the hot water.
Yeah, we'll do it in the next experiment. All right. So now what we will do, we will keep on adding salt. Okay, keep on adding salt little by little.
Ma'am, in the cold water or the hot water?
No, in the cold water. See, one thing you all can do, you all can heat the water after adding the salt in it. Can you all do it? Everyone?
No, ma'am.
Ma'am?
Yes. Okay.
Yes, ma'am, I can do it.
Is How many of you can like heat the water after adding the salt?
Ma'am, I can do it.
Ma'am, I can do it.
Ma'am, I can do it.
Can you all do it? Take the help of your parents and heat the water after adding the salt, okay? So what you'll have to do is, you'll have to keep adding little by little salt into the water. Okay? Keep adding little by little salt, and all of you make sure that you'll take very less amount of water, so that you all don't have to add lot of salt into it. Take less amount of water, okay, and add little by little of salt into the water.
Ma'am, I had taken less water, but my salt is dissolving in it.
Yeah,
Ma'am,
so you have to keep on
How
adding.
the
ma'am, it
solution
is
has
correct.
saturated.
You all have to keep on adding salt. When the point comes that your salt is not dissolving, then let me know. All of you take very little amount of water, keep on adding salt into it. When the salt does not dissolve anymore in the water, then you all let me know. Am I clear to everyone?
Ma'am, my salt is not dissolving.
Ma'am, me too. My salt is
See,
not
you all keep
dissolved.
on. Okay, that your salt is now your salt is not dissolving. All right. Now what you all can do is you all can stir it properly. Everyone has to stir the solution. Stir the solution and keep on adding salt till it does not dissolve.
Ma'am, the salt is not dissolving.
Ma'am, the salt is
Then in
dissolved.
that case, what you all can do is, see, in that case, what you all can do is, after that, you all go and heat the water. See, take the help of your parents. If there is no one at home, you all just observe. Okay?
Ma'am,
You all can go and heat that water. When the salt
Ma'am,
does not dissolve anymore, yes.
ma'am, my solution.
Who is saying that?
Ma'am, can you see my
Ma'am,
solution?
Parv.
Parva.
Ma'am, my solution.
Yeah.
Ma'am,
Parv,
can you see my solution?
okay. All of you can show it to me. Like all of you keep the
Ma'am,
solution, adjust the camera so that I can see
ma'am,
everyone's
my
solution at a time.
Aarti
Yes,
Mutha.
ma'am,
Ma'am,
one
Yeah.
can you
second.
see?
Ma'am, are you
Ma'am,
able
can
to
you
see
see
Ma'am,
mine?
can you see in the Daksha ji,
the
Saujivani?
salt left in the container?
Ma'am, can you see mine?
Ma'am, are you able to see mine?
Ma'am, can you see my
Yeah, I'm asking Bhavendra, is salt left in the container?
No, ma'am. It is dissolved.
It is dissolved.
Ma'am,
You have
can
to
you
keep
see
on
it?
adding salt till no salt does not dissolve. Okay?
Okay, ma'am.
All
ma'am,
right.
Excuse me,
ma'am, the
ma'am.
Ma'am, I
water is
don't
What
not
about
saturated.
who's that? Arya.
Ma'am,
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
ma'am, in my
Can you
solution,
put the video
in
on?
ma'am,
We cannot see.
ma'am, in my solutions, little bit of salt is in
Ma'am,
the bottom.
ma'am,
Little bit of
Ma'am, me
salt is
too.
in the water.
Little bit of
Ma'am,
salt
ma'am,
is not
the
dissolving in
salt
the
is not.
water.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. See, I want to show you all this. Can you all see this?
Ma'am, it's looking like my solution is
Yes,
super
ma'am.
saturated.
Can you all, maybe you all cannot see the salt in. Can you all see the salt now? Which is
Yes,
left
ma'am.
back.
Yes, ma'am, it
Yes,
is
ma'am.
there.
Yeah.
It is in small
So,
circle.
like this, some salt should be there in the container. Some salt, you all keep on adding little by little salt till it does not dissolve anymore. Even if I stir it, this salt is not getting dissolved. So till
Yes,
that
ma'am.
time, you have to keep on adding salt.
Ma'am, salt is over. Ma'am, can you see the salt down?
Yes, Janvi.
Ma'am, it's not dissolving how much ever I stir, ma'am.
Okay.
Ma'am, can you see mine?
Can you see this? My salt is some down little, and the which some salt is up.
Okay. If the salt is not dissolved in the water, what y'all will do now? Y'all will go to the.
Ma'am,
Y'all will
can you
heat.
see the salt particles down?
No, can you? Yeah, I could see. Remove your spoon.
Ma'am,
Little bit is there. Can you add little bit more of salt?
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah. All right. Now
ma'am,
what you all can do is
ma'am,
you all
mine is
can heat
saturated.
it.
Ma'am,
Okay.
there is in
You all
bottom.
Ma'am, can you
now
see
this
mine?
is a saturated system
The salt is in
when
the
more
bottom.
amount of salt cannot be added. Okay. Now you
Ma'am, can
all
you
can
see
go
mine?
and
It's
heat that.
saturated.
All right. Now you all can go and heat that solution and see what happens and tell me what happens. So I am also going to heat it. Okay. You all can take the help of your parents. Go heat that solution.
Oh, ma'am. Ma'am, I have hot water. Hello, ma'am. Ma'am, my salt
Okay.
is not dissolving now.
Okay. Your salt is not dissolving now.
Ma'am,
All
can you
right.
see my
So
salt
what
is
you
not
can do,
dissolving
if
now
you
after
have
adding
hot
some more
water,
salt?
don't solve the purpose.
Ma'am,
You
can
all
you
have
see?
to heat that solution to know. Okay. Who is that? Who just said that? You all have to take y'all's names. Then only I can know.
Okay, so Veran, Dhyan, and Jayant and Ved, turn your
Ma'am,
camera
we have
on.
to heat the salted water.
Yeah. You all have to heat the salt water, and then you all tell me what happens.
Okay,
The
ma'am.
salt which did not
Okay, ma'am, I
dissolve.
will try it now.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
I'm heating it, so ma'am, I'm
Just
keeping
take
the
a few
camera
minutes.
off.
Okay. Just take a few minutes. Go tell your mom to heat that water, or however you all want to heat it, but take care.
Ma'am,
Yes.
ma'am, I am heating the water in the microwave. Is it okay?
Yeah.
Ma'am, I am heating in the jug. It is okay.
No problem. Yeah. You all have to notice what happens to the salt. Okay.
Ma'am, salt will
After
mix
heating,
with it, huh?
you all have to tell me what happens.
Ma'am, salt will mix.
Ma'am, can you see my salt after heating it?
Okay. But still, there is some amount, a little bit salt left in the container.
Ma'am, we don't have to stir it after heating.
Yeah, you can stir it. Yeah, you can stir it. No problem. Stir it and see if
Ma'am,
it
so I have
mixes.
not stirred it.
All right.
Ma'am,
Ma'am, I am heating the
Yes.
solution.
Okay.
ma'am, the salt has disappeared.
Ma'am,
Okay.
ma'am,
So the
there is no
saturated
more salt
solution
in bottom.
has now become super saturated. You all have already made a saturated solution.
Ma'am, can
Now
you
you all
see?
are going to
Now,
make a super saturated solution.
Ma'am,
Yes.
there is no more salt in bottom.
after stirring it,
Yeah.
it
Okay.
becomes like this.
Yes. So good. Okay. So you have made a super saturated solution now.
Ma'am, now I put more salt in it and I'm stirring it, so it's not, ma'am, it's not dissolving. Ma'am, I've made a super saturated solution.
Okay. So that water you'll have to heat and check out what happens to the salt then.
Ma'am, there is no salt left at the bottom.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So there's no salt left at the bottom. That means after heating, the solubility of the salt increases in water. Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, can I add more salt?
If you add more salt, again you have to heat it to try whether it will dissolve it. Okay, but there is, after a super saturated solution, like you cannot make it too much super saturated. There's a point
Ma'am,
when
there is
that
no
will also
salt
stop.
in bottom.
Okay, Bhavendra, that's not a transparent container. Is it a transparent one?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, like this. It
Okay,
is also same.
all right.
Ma'am, what we have to do with the hot water?
Okay. Now, no need of the hot water because you are already heating it. Okay. You all heat it, then you all can know that after heating, what happens to the salt. So you all, so even mine is super saturated now.
Ma'am, mine is still heating.
Okay. Have you all observed how supersaturated solution was made? Can you all see the container?
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, can you see my
Yes, ma'am.
container? It has,
Is there any salt
my
left?
container is super saturated,
No,
ma'am.
ma'am. No, ma'am.
No.
No,
Okay, so the
Ma'am,
salt
my
which was
solution
left
has
when
been
you
super
heat it,
saturated.
yeah.
Ma'am,
So
see,
it has
this
become
is clear
super
water.
saturated now. How did it become super saturated? What did you all do to make it super saturated?
ma'am, we heated it.
Ma'am, we heated it.
Yes, heated it. Yes, Bhavendra.
We heated it.
Ma'am, we heated.
You all heated, you all increase the temperature. Okay, so if you all change any of the factors, you all can change the solubility of a solute in a solvent. Clear? Now, is that clear to everyone?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, do you have any doubts regarding
Ma'am,
today's topic?
ma'am,
No,
ma'am,
ma'am. No,
ma'am,
ma'am. No, ma'am.
Okay.
ma'am.
All right. So then you all note down
Arey,
the
ma'am,
questions that you all have to.
ma'am,
You all note down the questions that you all have to
ma'am,
do for homework. Okay, do it.
ma'am.
Yes. Anyone has any doubt?
Yes, ma'am, I'm having the
Yes,
doubt.
Parva.
Ma'am, the
Yes.
water is looking like a sea water. It is looking like sea water.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, why?
Okay.
Ma'am, mine water is
Yeah.
looking like
Sea
transparent
water
water.
is salty water, right? Sea water is salty water. Lots of salts are dissolved in the sea water. So like that it will look. Okay. All right. All of you can note down the questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Uh, the first question, what will happen? What will happen if you cool down a saturated solution? What will happen if you cool down a saturated solution? Okay. In the previous classes, I just asked you all about the principle, about the processes, right? Now I'll be giving you all some more questions related to the
Ma'am,
previous two classes.
ma'am,
Yes.
ma'am, you have told of the last week that you will show us the
What?
your muddy water.
The muddy water with the alum.
Yes, ma'am.
But I showed it already. that day?
No, ma'am. Heating one. Heating. You had heated, na?
Yes, ma'am. You
You
showed.
you had
Okay, yeah,
heated.
I have the picture with me. I'll be sending it. Okay,
Okay, ma'am.
I'll be sending it to your teacher. Then she'll be showing it to you all. All right.
Yes, ma'am. The second question.
Second question is, how can you separate a mixture of bit 1, write down,
Yes, ma'am.
wheat, sugar and husk. How can you separate a mixture of wheat, sugar and husk?
Yes, ma'am.
Second bit, write down, common salt and chalk powder.
Ma'am, what
Could
is
you
the
repeat
third
the second
question?
one?
Yes.
Ma'am, could you repeat this?
Yes. Second one is common salt and chalk powder.
Ma'am,
Okay.
but second question is how can you separate a mixture of wheat, sugar and husk?
Wheat, sugar, and husk.
That is the first bit. Second bit is common salt and chalk powder.
There are
There are
bits,
3 bits.
not
Okay.
questions.
The second
Ma'am, but
question
first
is
one is
divided
what
into 3
will
parts.
happen if you cool down a saturated solution? It is first one.
Yeah, it is the first question. What will happen if you cool down a saturated solution is the first question. Second question, how can you separate a mixture of bit number 1? Point number 1, write down, wheat, sugar and husk.
Yes, ma'am.
Have you all written that?
मैम पहले ही लिख दिया था.
Wheat, sugar and husk. That is the first bit. Second bit is common salt and chalk powder. That is also, it is also a bit of the second question only, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Third bit is common salt, sand and iron fillings. Common salt, sand and iron fillings. Did you all understand? Number 2 question has
Ma'am,
3 parts.
Ma'am,
Ma'am, so it is like, ma'am.
ma'am, wait a minute.
First,
My
ma'am, can
laptop
I
charging
repeat?
is low.
Yes.
Ma'am, can I repeat?
Yeah.
The questions. Question number 1, what will happen if you cool down a saturated solution? Question number 2, how can we separate a mixture of A, wheat, sugar, husk, B, common salt and chalk powder, C, common salt, sand and iron fillings.
Yeah.
Ma'am,
have you all noted it down?
Ma'am,
Yes.
Ma'am, can you Ma'am, can you type the questions in the chat box because I don't understand.
Okay, fine.
Ma'am, I typed them.
All right, did you type all?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Yeah. And the
Ma'am,
third question is,
ma'am, should I put it in the group?
no. Third one is, why does the sky look brighter and clearer? Why does the sky look brighter and clearer after the rain? Why does the sky look brighter and clearer after the rain?
Ma'am, are there more questions?
No, that's it. Okay, did you all note it down?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So in the next class, we'll be discussing these answers. Okay, and you all have to do it. These answers we'll be discussing in the next class. Clear? All
Yes,
right.
ma'am.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Bye bye, everyone.
Bye, ma'am. Have a
Do
good
the
day.
work that is assigned to
Bye,
you.
ma'am.
Okay?